Welcome back to the Upper Tier Podcast, the football podcast we bring you each and every day on the Dynamo Podcast Network. Head over to YouTube, smash that subscribe and bell notification button. Audioverse show are available through Spotify, Podbean, iTunes. Wherever you pick up Audioverse show, you will find us there. This is the Monday mashup. Joining me tonight, as always, the leader of the network, Ian the Dynamo Kelly. How we doing, Ian?
I am very, very well. Thank you, sir.
Oh, good.
The main man of the podcast network is yourself. So,
also joining me, my partner on the football podcast these days for the previews, the reviews, ratings, beat the bookie, his new favorite thing. On that show, he's known as Dazzler.
And everything in between.
On that show, he's known as the Dazzler, but on this show, he's simply Darren. How are we, Darren?
I'm all good, gentlemen. How are we this evening?
Not too bad
Good
at all.
to see you, Del boy.
Certainly an interesting weekend of fixtures, to say the least. If Gay Bourne was still alive, this would definitely be the late show. I stole that off Darren. Darren gave me that off air before we started. Let's get into the results from the weekend. First of all, let's kick it off. The lunchtime one on Saturday, of course, was West Ham versus Chelsea, finished 3-2. Newcastle 1, Burnley 0. Southampton 1, Brighton 1. Late goal by Maupay again. Wolves 0, Liverpool 1. Last gasp from Origi. Watford 1, Man City 3. Then into Sunday, Leeds 2, Brentford 2. That man Bamford last minute again as well. Man United 1, Crystal Palace 0. That man Fred, the Brazilian that no United fan wants in the team at times. Tottenham 3, Norwich 0. Aston Villa 2, Leicester 1. Stevie G continuing his good form. And we rounded out the weekend with Everton 2, Arsenal 1. Gents, where do we begin? Let's begin. Ian, Chelsea.
Well, that's why I'm here. I said I'd show up. You know what I mean? I felt it was my civic duty to show up because I can't be calling people out for not showing up if I don't. You boys know how I felt about it. In fairness, I was texting you during the match. I think I was pretty honest about it too. I think you both agree with that. Yeah. I don't look. The West Ham effect. I mean, it was a bit of a mad game actually for a 12 for an early kickoff. It was a bit of a mad game. I think the winning goal proves that. I think Darren and Ted put the voodoo on Edward Mendy.
It's like kibosh.
Like, you motherfuckers. And then like all the good karma went to Fred. It's like, what's happening here? What's going on? Look, it was one of those games we were in control. Like, we really did control a lot of the game. Watched it from the start. I watched it again afterwards just to try and, because I obviously am going to do a Chelsea roar on it as well, and just kind of I'm going to do a double looking back at the last two games. And so I watched it again just to kind of see what it was. I mean, Andreas Christensen, I'm going to point out now, go and sign that pre-contract with whoever you want to. I think, you know, Tuchel gave him a little bit of tough love there and said, well, if you love the club, would, you know, Karma's a funny sort of thing because the stock would have lowered after a performance like that. I thought he was absolutely shocking. I think the boy Chalobah has put the heebie-jeebies up him, to be honest with you, and shown that he's actually a better player now at this moment on form anyway. Thiago, can't really say anything wrong about Thiago, to be honest with you. Rudiger, without a shadow, without missing Chilwell at left back. Who wouldn't when you've got Marcus Alonso at left back? Reece James looked like he was a little lethargic, a little bit slow, a little bit off the pace. Had that little bit of an injury, so it's fair enough. And his form has been that good that he's you know, he can get a pass on it. Thought the boy Loftus-Cheek was the only player in midfield really that kind of stepped up. He was the only player willing to run and kind of bring the game forward. And then Ziyech, you never know what you're going to get with Ziyech. He looks like the laziest bastard, doesn't he, when he's walking around the pitch, and doesn't even apologise if he hits a bad ball. Something unlikable about him. Can't put my finger on it. Just kind of over him. Pulisic needs to step up big time. Really, really needs to step up. Kai Havertz was playing really well before he got injured. Great tackle by Kurt Zouma, but obviously he got injured and then went off later in the game. So I hope Kai Havertz's injury isn't too bad. And then Lukaku, when he came on, basically validified everything that Darren said about his no touch. He's gone back to the Mr. No Touch Lukaku. Had 45 minutes, done absolutely nothing. Out on the wings, I think the game was crying for Timo Werner just for the wing side of it rather than the finishing side. You know what I mean by that, Darren, in terms of how he drags defenders away and stuff like that. Tuchel just kind of got his subs wrong and all that day. Like I said, it wasn't like we were hammered by the hammers, no pun intended, but it was a very, very strange game. And Mendy probably had the most shocking game that he's had at Chelsea, and that's 2 in a row. So yeah, that's my thoughts.
Yeah, I feel their pain because I know exactly about goalkeepers at the City of London Stadium. We were there a few weeks ago ourselves, and we didn't crown ourselves in glory either with Alisson, you know. But I think, you know, albeit the way the winner happened with Mendy and stuff like that, we do have to give a bit of credit to West Ham. They were physical, they were strong, they were well organised, and I think Moyes is doing a fabulous job there. And I loved his post-match interview where he turned around and he said he really considers himself as being one of those teams in the mix for a top 4 spot. And it's nice to see that he's shown that ambition in terms of that's his thinking and his mentality. And they're certainly playing with that in mind as well. Albeit with Chelsea, I think.
I also liked his honesty as well about the game. Because he did say, he goes, Chelsea could have hammered us like beforehand. You know what I mean? He's really honest. He's not one of those managers that kind of gives it the big one after the game. Like he was really honest about it. He goes, this could have went either way. We could have lost like by a couple of goals, or it could have went the way that it did, and it went their way today. And I just thought it was, I really like Moisey, I have to say.
Yeah, and I suppose after the previous 2 games, it was no harm for one to actually go his way because he had been unlucky in a couple of games as well. But I think as well, looking at Chelsea's injury list at the moment, it's a who's who of injury list when you look at it as well. You know what I mean? And for Chelsea to be still producing at that level, albeit, you know, a goalkeeper howler cost you even a share of the spoils. I think to have that kind of injury list, most teams would be on their rear end, really, when you think about it. Darren, thoughts?
Yeah, I suppose on the, I know Ian mentioned about Chilwell. I actually don't think Reece James is fit either. And I think if Chilwell was in the team, I think you'd see James step out. But I think it's the fact that Chile is already out, that Reece James is saying, yeah, listen, I'm going to have to kind of front up and deal with this. He looks like a guy playing with an injury. You know, we've seen him so far this season, been the best ruck in the league comfortably. There's no argument there. And, you know, he does look like he's maybe not playing at full capacity, which will tell you, you know, he's got something going on there. West Ham, you know, always a tough place to go. You know, as Liverpool found out a couple of weeks ago, United, listen, we just about got out of there. It was the late show with Jesse Lingard and stuff like that, you know, so that's going to be a tough place to go for a lot of teams this season. The City still has to go there, I think, you know, and Spurs and stuff like that, because anyone that's above us at the minute, we're looking about where they can drop points, you know. So yeah, West Ham will do well there all season. Moyes has them playing.
Fans have brought Upton Park with them, haven't they?
Yeah, they have, and it was a big worry, you know, when they got there initially, because obviously it's so different than Upton Park, like the distance between the pitch and the stand and stuff like that. But they've created a serious atmosphere there. They really have. They pack it out week on week, and you know, like when you're playing good football and you've got good players at your club, it energizes your fans like that, you know. And I think there's a big buy-in for the West Ham fans there with Moyes. I think for a while they were kind of looking, wondering which way are we going. And I know at times there's a little bit of they look at the chairman and stuff like that and the board, and I'm not sure whether they're backing them, you know, to the absolute hilt or not. But I think, you know, they've done well here to get Moyes in, and you know, they're backing him as much as they can. I feel like for West Ham, the next stage would be obviously this Czech billionaire that's involved, for him to kind of take the reins and say to the 2 boys, listen, there's your divvy out. Take a seat backstage and I'm going to run the show from now on. You know what I mean? And that could really put West Ham to the forefront of that race for top four. You know, no
Do you
reason
mind
why.
if I add to that, Aaron? I agree. And even though I'm a Chelsea man, and it's a London thing, and it's not often you'll hear it, they are out of all the London clubs, they're kind of my second favourite one, if I can say that. Just in terms of
guilty pleasure.
I like them as a club. I like how they operate. I like their fans. And even though there's always atmosphere when Chelsea play West Ham, but it's that kind of nice rivalry where there's not killings. But there's something about West Ham. I like how they go about their business. It's kind of like Villa. They are that kind of club. You know what I mean? They're fans. It means something to them. Like most clubs. In fairness, I get that. Any kind of club and their fans can say that about their team, but. Yeah, I like how West Ham are going about their business, and I definitely think they could be the proverbial sleeping giant, if you will. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
More so than Newcastle. So
yeah, well, they also have a rich vein of history and a legacy, so it's it's important. They are a team that you could see coming back and rising up again and stuff like that, and. I suppose not at the expense of any of our teams, I suppose, but to see them in a top four, I mean, it would be fantastic to see that top four being shook up a bit, really. You know what I mean? So it's already been shook up as it is.
And listen, Moyes was able to do it with an Everton who are way off. That came in from Preston, he was able to put Everton into a top four spot. There's no saying he can't do the same at West Ham. Absolutely no.
Yeah.
Definitely no.
Absolutely. Darren, United 1, Palace 0.
Yeah.
Fred, your boy Fred.
My boy Fred. And when you were saying that earlier on, that most United fans don't want him on the team, listen, I fought long and hard to have my 5 minutes of fame with this one. I think he's been so instrumental in the last 3 or 4 games for us. Obviously, when Carrick took over, and then Ralph, on Sunday and stuff like that. I think you can see they've taken him out of that defensive midfield position and they've told him, go and press higher, go and nick the ball, get the ball to people. In the last 3 games, he's made 2 mistakes. 1, he stood on David De Gea, and 2, he failed to chip the 6'4" Mendy. But other than that, he's been unbelievable for us, really, really has. And I think he looks much more comfortable up at that higher end of the pitch. I spoke about it before. I told you all. I said, listen.
That's where you signed him. That's where you signed him.
He played as a number 10 for Shakhtar. And he was scoring free kicks, and he was, creating assists and goals and stuff in Russia and in the Champions League, and or in the Ukraine and in the Champions League. But we played him as a defensive midfielder, and he looked like a fish out of water. But he started to turn the tide. I think there's a lot of United fans over the last couple of weeks have gone, all right, maybe we got this one wrong, So the thing for me, the win was obviously, it's great to get the win, but man, did it feel good to have a clean sheet. It's been so long coming at Old Trafford. You're looking at the game, you're thinking, don't concede. And then all of a sudden you're thinking, all right, we might actually have this in hand here. And I looked at Gary Neville put some stats up before Monday Night Football, and just the stats were phenomenal. The average stats in the first 14 games of the season versus what happened on Sunday, and for Ranić to do that with one training session, which was Saturday, day before a game, basically you're doing tactics because there's not going to be any physical contact really the day before a game, And he was obviously able to get a message across there to the lads, which was brilliant. I'm really looking forward to the next few weeks and seeing what this team can do now with some leadership.
Yeah, he's come in for a great run of games as well, hasn't he? Like, you have a lot of games there at the moment where, in general, you should be picking up points.
And that was something we met again. That was something we mentioned a while ago. Wasn't dropping a manager in there to face Chelsea and Arsenal and maybe taking 2 defeats and all of a sudden be on the back foot straight away again. They let Carrick sit on it. Got them through. We got 4 points out of the Arsenal and the Chelsea games. Got the win in the Champions League, and then was able to hand it over to Ralph and say, "Listen, take the reins there. Off you go." So as much as fans crib and moan about it, we can look at it now and go, you know what, we've actually given this guy a really good opportunity to go on a 5-6 game unbeaten run in the league and really put us back into some sort of position for that fourth place. You know,
and confidence is key.
Building confidence, you know. At the minute, listen, the three, you know, Liverpool, Arsenal, and Chelsea are miles ahead of everybody else. For me, as a United fan right now, we have to make sure we get that top 4 spot, solidify it, and then close the gap as much as we can on the three above us, which will breed a little bit of confidence going into next season. And again, with a couple of additions and either a new manager or if Ralph gets another run in it, and you go from there. That's all we can hope for right now, you know.
Yeah, one of the points you made to me on Saturday, which I thought, or yesterday, which I thought was a very interesting point, was the fact that the team and the selection and the play from the beginning was very like the 3 games that Carrick had, and it kind of confirmed the fact that like Ragnick had been very involved in the previous 3 games as well, by the looks of things.
Yeah, it was. Listen, he named an unchanged side from the team that beat Arsenal, and okay, the formation changed slightly. Maybe he didn't feel like, you know, he could say to Carrick, listen, this is what I want you to go out and get him to do. You know, we played the 4-2-2-2, you know, and it was different, but it was noticeably different, and it was different in a good way, you know. And the space we created out wide for the fullbacks. You know, I don't think I've seen a game where United fullbacks got as high and got as many, albeit poor final deliveries, but got as many final deliveries in there over the last couple of years, you know. It was brilliant. It really, really was. But yeah, it kind of rubber stamped what we already thought, didn't it? That Ralph had maybe had his hand in the pie a little bit earlier than he was supposed to.
Yeah, I would have thought so, looking at it anyway, that's for sure. Quick word on Gerrard at Villa. I think he's doing a really, really good job there. He started off really, really well.
I was waiting for this.
No, but what I was liking about it, his post-match interview when he was asked about the trip to Anfield on the 11th of December, and he was asked potentially about the conflict of interest, and he turned around and he says, "No, there'll be no conflict of interest." He says, "I'm going to Anfield to try and win a game and get 3 points because I believe where Aston Villa should be as a club." And I like that comment as well, and the way it was reared up. But certainly it'll be the 11th of December next Saturday. It'll be certainly an interesting one with him standing in the dugout of the.
Well, I hope he doesn't slip on this one. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, he can slip all he wants because he ain't on the pitch, so it won't make a difference. I know.
That's what I hope he doesn't slip, because I want.
We might get a giggle out of a slip, but it won't affect the result this time.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
He's doing a very, very good job, I must say. Yeah. He really is.
He's perfect. He was perfect to go in there, wasn't he? I mean, he's done it in the right way. He's done it in the way that I think Frank Lampard should have done it, and stayed probably at a lower level. You know what I mean? Even going to Rangers, I know like Lampard was tipped even in the summer for the Celtic job, which I thought would have been a perfect, thing for him to do. I've mentioned it on this show. It would have brought a bit of box office to that league, just because there's nothing else going on in the league. Let's be fair, lads. But it would have brought a bit of box office to it. I think Gerrard has really done it the right way. He's went in, he's learned his craft, in a league that isn't necessarily, one of the top leagues in Europe. I think that's probably a nice way of putting it. But come back to the Premier League now, shown, what's he there, 3 years? And shown that, he literally has learned his craft from the get-go and knows how to run a squad, knows exactly what he needs out of his players. It's not, Darren, I know you're very analytical when it comes to this stuff as well, and it's true. It's not just about, what players you pick on a Saturday or a Wednesday, whatever day you're doing it. It's about knowing the club, knowing your players, knowing exactly what you need to get out of them. And I think Gerrard's went in there, and obviously could be the new manager bounce, but so far, so good for me anyway. Yeah. And it'll be an interesting one, with him going back to Anfield, leading out a different team. albeit as a manager.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be very interesting. Don't want to touch too long on the Liverpool game. I know we created a bunch of chances and stuff like that, and I know Wolves had one or two as well, but Origi came on, of course, with a last gasp in the 94th minute. But sometimes you got to earn your win that way, and we know Wolves are physical and stuff like that. But I do want to touch on some information that came out this week about Mo Salah's contract renewal, which I said I'd put to you guys for a conversational piece. One was the renewal. The renewal hinges on what came out this week was the ambition of the club, the thoughts of the manager, and potential incomings. And on top of that, obviously, he admitted as well, obviously, the financial value. Like, he wants his value to be recognized as probably the best player in the world at the moment, arguably. But the one that I was interested in most in this was the potential incomings. So the ambition of FSG, he was basically calling out there. And two, the thoughts of the manager, which I thought was a really good one. I know, Darren, you've mentioned before a number of times with Jurgen Klopp that he's the star at Liverpool and everything stems from him. And I wonder when he was talking about the thoughts of the manager, did he want to know where the manager's head was and what his future plans were? Was he going to stay and extend his contract before Salah committed? And it was just very interesting to hear those comments.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I think, you obviously, about the situation with Van Persie when he signed for United and he signed that deal, and he won the league the first season with Ferguson. Then all of a sudden, Ferguson left, and Van Persie was kind of like, "What's going on here? You signed me up for 3 years here. You said we do this together, and all of a sudden you're jumping ship. What's the story?" Very, very let down. And I think that's something that Salah's obviously guarding against. Maybe he feels similarly to I do that. The catalyst to all of this at Liverpool is Jurgen Klopp, and maybe he doesn't feel like with the guys around him that, under a different tell him, listen, we're gonna put our hands in the hill here and get you out a few quid to keep this going, because the squad is threadbare at times, it really is. Something we've spoken about before. He wants to see that squad addressed, I'm sure. He wants to hear Klopp is gonna be there certainly for the medium term anyway. And then again, he wants to see how much they believe in him and at what level they rate him as well, I suppose, because it's very difficult. Like if you're looking at yourself as Mohamed Salah at the minute and you're saying, well, listen, I'm the best player in the world, and like, we can argue all day long whether he is or whether he isn't. He's absolutely earned the right to be in the conversation, So for him to be in that conversation, if you're talking about, other players, you're talking about the Messi, the Ronaldos, the Kylian Mbappes, you're talking about the Paul Pogbas, all these guys who are on big, big money. Not necessarily the best player, but big, big money. He wants his value to be reflected on what they get, And I mean, Liverpool is a club, I know, of a wage structure and stuff like that. But when you're talking about somebody as important as Mohamed Salah, I don't know whether your wage structure is a valid reference point, because he's just, and when we look at the league table in Liverpool, City and Chelsea are ahead of everybody. You look at Mohamed Salah and he's up there ahead of everybody at the minute, isn't he? For me anyway,
I would think so.
And he fully deserves, if he feels it's 400 a week, if he feels it's 500 a week, and he feels like that's what his worth is, it's hard to argue.
Yeah, no, it's kind of a difficult environment for them, really, isn't it? Because I mean, you also have to weigh up the cost that if you lost them and how much it would cost you to replace them. You know what I mean? You're talking upwards of 100 to 150 million to try and replace him, if you can replace a player that's in that kind of vein of form at this stage in his career. But I just thought they were interesting points that were raised. I know they weren't points that we probably wouldn't have known ourselves anyway, but it was an interesting just to get a comment on them and stuff like that. Ian, I wanted to go. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. No. I thought I'd wait it out here just to hear what your boys' thoughts on it were. Listen, I think once a mercenary, always a mercenary. I mean, this is Liverpool Football Club we're talking about here. right? One of the most supported clubs on the planet, and we're gonna literally go, well, we'll see if we can appease little Mo Salah there. I get it that he's one of the best players, if not the best player on the planet, but you're telling me he's gonna hold the club up to his demands? Really?
Well, this is the issue at the moment. He's not really holding the club up, and that's where we're at.
No, but he's
moment.
sowing the seeds of it, though.
Yeah.
Sowing the seeds of the negotiations, though. That's what I'm getting from this. I'm not willing to throw the guy under the bus just yet. Well, however, it's definitely the sowing of seeds that potentially lead to those hard conversations, in the summer. Look, what's he got left on his contract? 2 years, is it?
Yeah.
2 years. I mean, look, it's gonna be one of those situations. And I think he's using it to his advantage too, because don't forget, it's not necessarily just him anymore. When we're talking about these footballers, we're talking about the agents as well, who are very, very influential in these decisions. So his agent knows exactly what's going on at that club, knows exactly what way the fanfare is, looking at FSG and all that stuff. And that's him telling Mo to call shots out. I'll be honest with you, if I was a Liverpool fan, I'd be a little bit fucking ticked off hearing them come out with these. They're semi demands. You know what I mean? It's like, this needs to happen.
But there is a medium ground, isn't there? I mean, there is a justification for some of it. I mean, when you're at his level.
Well, there is, but what he is doing though at the moment is putting himself in the shop window too. He's letting other clubs know that, listen, you can.
Yeah, but the shop window at the moment for a player of his level isn't a very good environment at the moment. When you think of all the clubs that are struggling, who would normally be suited.
No, but you'll get some
player. Yeah, but I just wonder at the moment is a case of. I wonder, is there a certain level of disappointment in the ambition that the club has shown in terms of, we spoke about signings, and Darren has spoke about the squad at times being very thin, and maybe the disappointment of last season when we picked up those injuries and the season was a struggle, and we didn't really put in places the pieces that we needed to put in place to build on the success of what we've done in terms of the league and the Champions League. And I think some of that I think is justified from him. I think maybe some sort of a happy ground where you don't totally know. I know he's had a couple of offers already, and they're decent offers, and they have smashed the wage structure already with these offers. But I wonder, for a guy of that level, can you put him on a contract that's a certain level in terms of meeting some wage increase, but also some sort of a heavy-weighted bonus structure in terms of success? And maybe that's where the talks of the manager, potential incomings, and the ambition of the club. Because if you think of the 4 points that he raised, the 4 points that are raised there, they're all linked. Every one of them are linked, because if you think about potential incomings, shown ambition, the thoughts of the manager, you know what I mean? If they don't give him money to spend and, bring in a certain level and a quality of player that he wants and stuff like that, is he going to want to re-sign? Is Salah going to want to commit his whole career to Liverpool now if Klopp doesn't re-sign, and who would come in? As Darren said, Klopp is really the star there. So when he goes, who do we get in? You know what I mean? This is
let me put something to Darren there then, and play devil's advocate a little bit, right? Does Mo Salah, and we know this as well with our clubs, very, very rare a footballer really cares about a club much anymore. Let's be real. You know what I mean? Let's get that out of our head that Mo Salah is a lad just from down the road in Merseyside. Because Liverpool fans used to do that with Torres. Oh, he left us and he's one of our own. It's like, no, he's from Madrid. This lad's from Egypt. You know what I mean? These lads are fucking in it for themselves. They are Mayfainers, to choose one of our own puns. Is he not now just using the current situation as a potential kind of fucking bargaining chip, especially if he's coming out with it in public, to kind of put pressure on that? Let's be real. If he gets offered 500 grand a week from Real Madrid and he's only getting 300 from Liverpool, do you think he really cares what way the squad is bolstered? Because we've seen it time and time again with players that we thought are in it for our club and the love of our clubs. We've seen it, and then they're gone. So that's just a question I want to put to you as well. And I'm not accusing Mo Salah of that. I'm not saying that because I could be proven wrong. But I'm just trying to play devil's advocate a little bit.
Well, I suppose club ambition and love are two very different things. I mean, if he doesn't see that, like we've often spoken about Harry Kane, how he wanted out of Spurs because he wanted ambition to go and win silverware. You know what I mean? I'm sure with Mo Salah, he's getting involved in this conversation now of this GOAT conversation with Thierry Henry and all players like this now. But he still needs to add probably another couple of leagues or maybe another Champions League and stuff like that and all this kind of thing. And I think if, you know, if FSG were to go into this summer, like what they did last summer, where they only signed Kanate, they're not really showing the ambition to match the player. And I don't think that's necessarily playing a card. I think with Mo Salah, I think there's a certain honesty to him in terms of it. And I think a lot of what's coming out at the moment is maybe he just wants it to be fucking done. And he just wants.
But every fan has said that, though, Niall. Every fan has said that. I mean, and listen, I'm going to correct you there. People said that. Liverpool fans said that about Torres. But
what I'm saying to you at the moment with the Torres situation, he's seen that as being a better opportunity that was available to him and stuff like that. So he went. You know what I mean? What I'm saying to you at the moment is, if you look at Real Madrid, is Real Madrid a better opportunity at the moment than Liverpool under Jurgen Klopp? No. Is Barcelona? No. Is PSG, when you look at Messi after going in there and what's going on and stuff like that, is it really a better opportunity? Does he want to go in there and play second fiddle to those guys? No. So like there's not a lot of options to him at the moment in terms of him playing a card to the market. So that's why I'm thinking there's a certain thing about it where he understands his value. The club has to figure out how that value fits into their wage structure and what way they can put a contract together. And I think he really wants the club to really show proper ambition. And that's been frustrating from the fan base. If you look at the start of the season, they were going crazy, even though we did a lot of renewals and we renewed all the spine of the team out for 5 and 6 years and stuff like that, which in some respects showed a certain amount of ambition. I agree. But I just think he's putting it out there because I think he's trying to force. There's a lot of information out there in the market about FSG at the moment. They're doing really well on a lot of deals and they're bringing in a lot of money and stuff like that. And maybe he's trying to force their hand to say, well, where does myself and my career progression and Liverpool as a club's progression fit in the bigger scheme of Fenway Sports? And I think maybe he's calling them on that. That's how I look at it anyway. Darren?
Yeah, I'd agree with most of that. I think absolutely I agree about, you know, the bargaining chip and what's a better prospect than Liverpool at the minute. I don't think he makes the move to City personally. And other than maybe City and being in the shake-up for, again, league titles and Champions Leagues, I don't see a lot of other options out there.
Chelsea,
I don't believe I don't believe he'd go back to Chelsea.
No, I'm joking, of course.
No. But, well, listen, it's a viable option.
No, they're the only two teams that would fulfill, I get you.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, other than that, like you're looking at, you know, as you said, European giants, they're asleep at the minute. They're sleeping giants. Yeah. Barcelona and Real Madrid, Inter Milan, Juventus, Bayern Munich, as big as they are, they're not going to pay the type of money that Mohamed Salah's looking for. Yes, he'll compete for German titles and German cups and Champions Leagues and stuff like that. But the financial end of things in Germany won't be anything near what they'll be in England. And I do believe it gets to a point where, you know, ambition has to be the main point you're looking for, because again, as Ian mentioned, if you're on 350 a week or you're on 500 a week, what's the difference? Do you know what I mean? Now, it's all good, me and you sitting here saying, what's the difference? 150 grand. When you're at that level, because don't forget, this is their basic salary. This isn't their goal bonuses. This isn't their win bonuses. This is not the sponsorship days. They've got Coke, Pepsi and Adidas. And so this is a money-making machine, you know. But I do think if you want to put yourself up there and if you want to be mentioned in the same name or in the same breath as some of the players you've talked about, you know, there comes a time when people go, let's see what's in your cabinet, you know, and if you can't back it up with medals and with trophies, then the conversation goes a little bit, it kind of peters out a little bit, doesn't it? And I do think he's probably saying to FSG, listen, I'll stay and I'll be part of this, but I want to know that A, the gaffer is staying, he's part of it, and B, you guys are going to pony up and we need to fill positions here, there, and wherever in this team, in this squad. And that's a fair cop.
Yeah, because I think it's his last big contract
to be made. I was going to say, do you think there's a case to be made that managers now understand the influence of media and understand, when they have a good relationship with a player, like I'm sure Klopp has with Mo Salah, that they do encourage them to go out and kind of almost act on their behalf a little bit. Do you know what I mean? In a subtle way, because quite clearly, Salah knows that Klopp is his guy. He's brought stability to his career because he certainly didn't have the career he had before he came to Liverpool. We all saw the potential in him, but he never had that stability. And I just wonder a little bit if it's a thing that the likes of a Klopp will say, well, maybe let that out a little bit. You know what I mean?
Don't do my bid.
Yeah. Maybe the manager's frustrated with the situation.
I can only imagine he's frustrated at what's gone on there, over the last
Liverpool are 3 injuries away. Liverpool are 3 injuries away from being in a situation that would let Chelsea and City run away with it. You talked about the injuries with Chelsea there at the start, Noel. Now we're seeing that we have the squad, albeit not getting great results, but it's not a worry either. It's not like, oh shit, Chelsea all of a sudden are gone, are on the downward slide. But if that happened to a couple of Liverpool players like it did last year,
well, we'll know come January. We'll know come January.
Yeah,
when they boys head after the AFCON.
So maybe this is, yeah. So it is an interesting kind of way to look at it. That if Mo Salah's coming out saying, right, lads, you need to step up if you want to get me, because I need to know that my manager's going to be backed, and I also need to know that I'm going to be rewarded financially, which I think is absolutely fine. I have no problem with players demanding whatever they feel that they're worth. I don't. Not in the modern age. They're the ones that bring the money in. Do you know what I mean? So that's just.
I've no problem with it once they're not being absolutely deluded on the point.
Yes, exactly.
Which he's not. He's in the upper echelons of world football. No. On the pitch, he should be in the upper echelons of world football from a financial point of view. And that's,
well, look, if Lionel Messi is getting paid 500 grand a week at the moment, or whatever it is, 600 grand, 700 grand a week, if you're telling me Mo Salah isn't worth 400 grand a week, well, then there's something wrong there. In my book, anyway.
Yeah.
Because he is the best player in the world at the moment. I don't think there is a.
And if FSG can sell it to Salah and say, listen, we financially don't have the clout that a PSG have. We financially don't have, what they can offer you. However, we can guarantee you we will compete with them based on the fact we've got this guy in charge, and we can supplement the squad with this, and this. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then it might be enough to get him to sign on the line. And I think that's a clever play.
Old school bone structure. You know what I mean? Like if we fulfill our commitments to you in our contract negotiations within the year or two's time. I know that's done a lot in the past, and they've kind of been sway merchants. You know what I mean? Yeah, don't worry, we'll sort you out with that, and then it doesn't happen. But they get them to sign the dotted line. They're there for 2 years. But I think if they could do that, based on what Darren was saying, they could probably get it over the line. But I think they would almost. That's why I just thought I'd bring up the idea of Klopp possibly using some of his players now because that's what he needs to see, right? To stay long term or medium term, as Darren mentioned. Yeah. So, yeah.
I suppose from the player's point of view as well, do you want to stay at a club or, where you're an absolute superstar and a god, and you're on the verge of a statue outside the ground or whatever it is, if not already? Or do you want to go to a club where you're just another player that's part of a mix of a bunch of other players? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like when we talk about Liverpool Football Club, we talk about Mo Salah and Virgil van Dijk and these players. When you talk about PSG, we can talk about 7 or 8 players. You know what I mean? Like you look at Messi's gone in there. Messi's gone in there, who's an absolute superstar and a fantastic footballer. But he's in there with Neymar and Mbappe and Verratti and Marquinhos and all these players who are absolutely brilliant players. So you've just gone in there and become another player when you think about it. If you look at the season so far, I should say, for Messi at PSG, it's not exactly been the Messi of Barcelona that we knew and loved, kind of, you know what I mean? So it's an interesting conundrum where you have to make those decisions, you know.
And that's at a weaker league as well. You know, I just wanted to throw that out there because I mean, I think I know we're not going to get into that. I just think he's been seen for the little kind of rat that he is, personally, Lionel Messi. Always had the little boy smile about him, and I've said this on previous shows as well. I think Karma's a son of a bitch, and I think that's exactly what it is. All those fake crocodile tears and all that he put on, you know, when he was leaving Barcelona. Well, why are you leaving then? Just lower your demands, motherfucker. Whereas I think I look at Salah there and you go, why would you want to leave Liverpool? Listen, you're telling me that I wouldn't like him or Darren wouldn't like him at his team? Of course we would. But we're also fucking football fans and we know that's where you need to be. And yeah, if that's the right, you know, if that's what you need to do to get your ambitions met and demand that you get certain players that can facilitate your game and kind of make you better and make the team better, all power to you. So yeah.
A couple of more points we just want to touch on this evening anyway. One is the fallout from the Ballon d'Or. Not necessarily getting into a conversation about the players, about who should or shouldn't have won it or anything like that. I mean, I think most people on the shows know our thoughts at this stage about who we thought should have won and who shouldn't have been in the mix. But in terms of, I wanted to ask Bodie, is just your comment on, you know, these individual awards in a team environment. Is there a space for that? Does it really exist? You know what I mean? And you see Messi there the other day and he's lying around putting up pictures and he has the 7 of them sprawled all over him and this kind of thing. But like, how do these individual awards work in terms of a team environment? I mean, he didn't like play in goals, pick up the ball himself in defense, pass it to himself in midfield, pass it to himself up front, score the goals and win the matches. You know what I mean? It's a team environment. And the team makes him look good.
I thought the best award that they brought out this year, the best award they brought out this year was Team of the Year, and that was Chelsea. And I thought that was good enough for me.
Well, the question for both of you then is, should there be an individual award in terms of a team environment? I mean, at that level now, I'm not talking about like a golden glove or a golden boot or whatever it is, you know what I mean? But I'm talking about at that level.
I think so.
Yeah, I think so. I think if you look at the types of guys you're mentioning, you know, these are guys that are all highly, highly driven, you know. These are the guys that are in 15 minutes before everyone else, that are half an hour late in the evening, staying a little bit later than everyone else. These are the extra hours that they put in on the training pitch. And that's what gets these guys right to the top of the game. The performances on the grand stage, not on, you know, listen, your Tuesday night against Stoke is great and well and good, but what they do in a Champions League semi-final, what they do in a Copa America, what they do in a World Cup, what they do in the European Champions, that's you know, when all that work stands to you most, you know, and I think it is important for guys like that to have a brass ring for them to reach for, because, you know, if you don't have that, do the guys go out and do, you know, if you don't have individual honours, is there enough in all of those guys? Let's talk about Ronaldo. Do you think if there was no individual awards in football, Ronaldo would be as good as he is right now?
No.
I disagree with that. I think he would, because I think he's very driven and very competitive as a player and as a person.
I think he's very driven, but I think he's very driven to drive himself. You know, I think he's driving the vehicle with him on the front of it. He's not driving the vehicle with, you know, Man United on it or Real Madrid on it, or he's driving that vehicle as much as he can with his face on it, his logo, and it's all very kind of narcissistic, and this is all about him, you know. I believe that anyway, and I don't think if you take something like the Ballon d'Or out, that we get the Ronaldo we've gotten over the last, 10 to 12 years. Personally speaking.
I think as well, just to throw my 2 pence worth in there, I think Darren's absolutely on the money. I think it's the same way when we look at it in basketball. Darren and myself are big basketball fans. And you look at like LeBron James, and the Michael Jordans of this world. There's an award there for a reason. Do you know what I mean? To show who the best players are. Now, the problem, I think maybe we should change the question a little bit, not to shit on what you were saying, Niall, but I'm saying I think change the narrative a little bit and look at how it can be corrupted. I think that's where we need to talk about, because I don't think Messi, having just won a Copa America this year and looking at how his tenure ended with Barcelona, warranted that. And I know there's this whole shite that some people are saying Messi said he shouldn't have won it. Yeah, come on. Like, it's
easy after the fact, isn't it?
And like I said, I've called him. Yeah, 100%. You know what I mean? It's like I said, the little rat that he is, and I'm gonna call him out every time for that, because he is a little rat. Like, and he gets all this adulation constantly about what he is, how much of a nice guy he is, and blah blah blah. The guy's been getting $500,000 a week with Barcelona and absolutely rinsed them, and then left them when they couldn't, meet his demands again, and then went to PSG instead of actually going and giving it a shot at a proper league, like in England, or even if he had wanted to go to Italy. I don't care, but I just think he's the measure of the man is that he accepts that award and thinks that it was justified. I think he's an absolute weasel, and I think what Darren said, to go back to your point, I think there should be an individual award, but it should be based on who was the best player for the team that actually was the best team. Do you know what I mean? Whether that be measured by goals, assists, I don't know. I really don't know.
Well, that's where I was going with it, because I mean, you brought up a good point in terms of the NBA and an MVP and stuff like that, and LeBron and Michael Jordan and stuff like that. It's very clear in those sports. Maybe Tom Brady as well fits into that with the NFL as well. It's very clear in those sports why those players win those awards, and it's rarely questionable. Like, does anyone turn around and think, well, LeBron shouldn't have won that, or Michael Jordan shouldn't have won that, or Tom Brady shouldn't have won that? It's very clear that they're head and shoulders above everyone else in terms of their performance, stuff like that. In the Ballon d'Or is kind of like, there's a kind of a shadow to it where they bring in more than just that body of work in that period of time. And from that point of view, then, if you're a player coming in there, like, for example, a Jorginho or a Lewandowski or whatever it is, you're coming in and you're already behind in the voting before you even kick a ball.
Well, yeah, because if you can score 7 goals against Levante in that league and you're judged basically on goal, well, then what are we judging it on then? Are we judging it just solely on the amount of points scored, goals, assists, whatever? Well, I personally think it should be judged on the Champions League alone. I've always said that. It's always been my opinion. I think what you can do in the Champions League, because the one thing about the Champions League is it's like the NBA in that sense, and you'll get what I mean by this, Darren, when I finish the point. Not every same team wins it every year. Like, you have to up your game to really fucking get a Champions League win. You know what I mean? And I think once you get to that kind of knockout phase, I'm not saying that the player that wins the Champions League, this isn't a case for Jorginho, even though it is, but it's also a case for Lewandowski as well. Like, if we're judging it on the fact that it's all about goals and achievements within all leagues, well, then Lewandowski wins it, right? Hands down, Lewandowski wins it this year for me. However, if you're looking at it based on the Champions League and what drove it, and then you're bringing in, international football into it, then Jorginho wins, hands down, because that's what they gave Modric the award for when he won it. So again, I think it's corruption at its finest level. It's like, oh, well, Messi happened to get the biggest transfer this year, you know, and he left Barcelona. So let's give it to Messi just to make Messi feel good. I don't know. That's what I think.
I don't think he gets it on the basis that, you know, it's the biggest transfer. You know, like he's won the Copa America, which is the equivalent of winning the Euros. You know, that's the equivalent.
Still
The
a lower.
World Cup is no, but that's the equivalent.
It's
Yeah,
equivalent
but
for
it's
that
still a low
region. It's
level as
equivalent
well.
for that region, yeah.
It's the
for
equivalent for that
region.
reason. It's not whether it's a different standard or not, but that's the equivalent. So with Italy winning one and Jorginho winning one, you know, it falls down and Messi wins his one then.
But what did he do in his own club then? That's what I'm saying. He had one of his worst seasons.
Yeah, but and this is where I think things are slightly slanted in the view.
Yeah.
I feel like that's where, you know, you have guys looking at it, and as Niall mentioned, not with the body of work from that particular period. So he's going in with votes in his back pocket before he's kicked the ball last year, based on the fact he's won 6 Ballon d'Ors and he's probably the greatest of all time. So for him to be anywhere near the shake-up, you know, it's like when you go into a boxing match, you know, and you're going to face a champion in his own country. If you don't knock him out, you're not leaving with a title.
Yeah,
that's it.
That's a great point.
Because you're never going to be given a decision whether you've, you know, look at what Fury did to Wilder in that first fight. It was called a draw. Like, you know, he absolutely skilled the kid, you know. So I think that's where maybe there's a lack. You know, the other thing I would say is the guys that are, you know, casting votes here as well, we've got to look at their level of credibility. You know, like they're so easily bought in the smaller countries, aren't they? And it could be such a thing that, you know, the manufacturers, the likes of Nike and Adidas, can have their say in these things based on the fact that there's so much money to be made from the Ballon d'Or and Messi winning that 7th Ballon d'Or and those boots being an extra €20 a pair, and you know what I mean. There's everything's become so commercial that nothing would surprise me at this day and age, you know.
Yeah. Well, I think our game has become so corrupted. I think you've actually hit the nail on the head there, Darren, to be honest, which I can't disagree with any of that. I think that's what it really comes down to. We're living in a world now where corruption is easily done, but it's like, look at the left hand, but don't look at this hand. You know what I mean?
The FA representative in Guadeloupe said that he felt Messi was the best. Do you know what I mean? Like, come on, for fuck's sake! Like, it's ridiculous.
I suppose you think with an award like this, you would think that it would be voted on by your peers, and not by media and news and reporters and all that kind of thing. It's so strange the way it's contrived and put together and stuff like that. Whereas you would think about it, if you're a top player in the world, let's say it is Messi, and you're voted on by Ronaldo and Neymar and Mbappe and Jorginho and all these players, that should mean
should always be that way. Should always be that way. You know, absolutely. That you said, right, you both know, you guys both know, I am a fucking diehard NHL fan, right? And I think it's the only league that still has not really been corrupted so far, as that all the awards, they have awards for individual things, you know what I mean? So they'll have award for the best defenseman who demonstrates the best attacking ability within the season. They'll have like an award for, you know, the most outstanding player within the Stanley Cup in the knockout phase. Similar, Darren, to, you know, to the NBA. And then they'll have an award, but like the main one is voted on by the coaches. So coaches vote on that, and they can't vote for their own. So you think, you know, Wayne Gretzky, he was the best player that year. The only way that gets to the fucking dance is if the votes are in there from the coaches. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's really where it goes. So I think you're right. There's a little bit of darkness, as in like who's lurking in the shadows here, making these votes and making these decisions. And I think, to be honest with you, this year, it showed that it was a crock of shit. And you see him sitting there in his little suit, little midget heading him, just going, ha, grand, I won it again. And you're going, man, You've done nothing this year for your own club. You can't even fucking make it in France at the moment. Ask my bollocks, you Argentinian fraud. You know, he's going down the same route. He may as well just get the bag of coke out and start being fucking Maradona now at this stage. That's all I have to say about that.
Jesus, don't hold back anyway. I wanted to finish on one quick point.
What?
Because obviously we're running out of time, so I'll skip a couple as these shows tend to go on. But women's international football there during the week, we were all messaging each other on the WhatsApp group. England winning 20-0 and Ireland winning 11-0. And I just thought, with all the celebration of the Fiore of this that was going on and stuff like that, personally, I thought it was disgusting. I just thought this was...
Can Darren take this one for me, please? Because I'm already at to make a controversial statements.
Yeah, I just thought this was kind of disgraceful. I thought, like, in terms of seeding and in terms of a spectacle and in terms of stuff like that, I just thought, everyone was, some people were celebrating this, and I was going, to go out and slap up a team 20-0, I think it's disgusting. I think it shows a problem in the system.
20-0, you wouldn't allow that to be done to a kids team on a Sunday morning, let alone an international team where they're desecrating their country's name, getting absolutely thumped. Can you imagine the abuse those women had to take going back to Lithuania? It was Latvia, wasn't it?
Latvia,
Can you imagine the abuse those ladies had to take going back to Latvia? A proud country, and going back and going, sorry about that, lads, we got slapped up 20-0. Give us a break, will you? I'd say there's a couple of them doing well to be bleed mate now. The gaff this week after people got their hands on them. Unbelievable. And just don't get me started on the standard. I could get 2 Labradors out the back garden and they'd have a better game of football than some of these. It's absolutely shocking altogether. Shocking. Did you see the Ireland game? Did you actually watch any of the Ireland game?
I watched the extended highlights, yeah, Darren. I can back you up on that one.
Pitiful. It was absolutely pitiful. At one stage I wondered, am I watching the fucking CRC play St. Michael's House? Because it was unbelievable, the standard of football. And for them to put it on the TV and say, here, watch this, girls. You too can be one of these. What? Are you joking me? Has someone taken the piss out of me? Now, really? Oh, my God, it was... Oh, stop the lights, lads. Will you please?
Well, the comments, just to keep you going there, Darren, the comments that were made after the games and in the analysis on the days after it, where that it just goes to show how much that game has come on and in terms of the development of these teams as in England and Ireland. And I was there going, you're after slapping up 2 teams that looked like they were thrown together 2 minutes before the game, who were over on holidays and just met up or something like that. And you're talking about how your own structures have developed when you're going out slapping up these teams that are absolutely nothing. And it was like, I know in our league with the lads when we play, if you win more than 5-0, only 5-0 is counted. It's just like, you could win 10-0, but you only get 5.
You have to leave a little bit of respect for the kids. And you know what I mean? And it's the same with, I agree with Darren's point 100%. I think, that's a proud nation going back, and they probably don't have the, I suppose the facilities or whatever that we have. We're going beating post women at this point. It's like Ireland's always doing that.
We're a country with a massive financial advantage over the likes of Latvia and Georgia. And when it gets to that stage, football shouldn't, as we know, just be about money, especially not at a certain level. And that was just, it was horrific. It really was.
Isn't it the same thing, Darren? I'd like us to have a conversation about this one day, Niall. I got crucified back in the day when Robbie Keane, should I say, got the most goals. I watched that man put 20 away against postmen. And that's a fact. The Faroe Islands, where they said the only professional footballer was one on the team. And that's how Ireland makes themselves feel better about their football. That's how the FAI makes themselves feel better about their football. And you're like, no, not really. Because look at it, we haven't made a fucking European Cup, or Euros, or a World Cup at all. When's the last one we made?
A couple of years ago now, it was Robbie Brady, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The winner against Italy.
100%. So this little narcissistic shit, when the FAI do it very strategically as well to get fans on side. Oh, the women, because they made sure that it was all over social media and it was all over the radio. Ireland women won 11-0. Like, yeah, it's the same thing. Robbie Keane couldn't buy a goal against a top team in his last, say, 6 to 8 years of his tenureship with the team. And in turn, in my opinion, stopped Shane Long's growth. Because there was a boy who had fucking pace and could run and scored a banger against Germany, which we all remember. You know what I mean? And comes on as a substitute. But, oh no, Robbie Keane's got to play. You know, this is a lad who had a dream to play for like Galaxy.
In fairness, though, if I'd Robbie Keane on crutches and Shane Long, I'd play Robbie Keane first, man. Shane Long wouldn't hit a barn door with a banjo.
Yeah, well, I tell you, though, he scored against bigger teams, though, in his later years.
He didn't.
What I'm trying to say.
He absolutely didn't. Look at the two records; they're non-comparable, especially in international
they are,
football.
But
because if we're only going to take out the goals against the Pharaohs, what's Ronaldo left with? What's Messi left with? You know what I mean? Like, you can't just cherry pick the goals.
But I look at what I will do then is tell me the most amount of goals that Robbie Keane has scored in a Premier League season.
It's, I'd say, easily double what Shane Long's ever scored.
No, fair enough. But what is the most?
22, probably, something like that.
One season in his whole career, yeah.
In the best league in the world, it's all right. Look what he's done in the Premier League. He had longevity in the Premier League, you know.
Yeah, so he's not this international phenom that people like to fucking think that he is. Do you know what I mean? And I'm sorry to say, but look, that's a little bit of controversy there now.
If he was doing keep you ups out in the back garden, I'd watch it before them women.
Oh yeah, I'm with you every day. The point that I was making, it was the same. It's about the FAI. It's not about Robbie Keane. Listen, Robbie Keane is a fantastic player. I loved Robbie Keane when he came on the scene. Loved him. I'm not saying it's not a personal attack on Robbie Keane. What I am saying is he literally, or the FAI have this way of masking problems. Well, we got a superstar. We got a result against this. Do you know what I mean? They're the most. I'm going to call it out, and Niall knows exactly what it is because my dad also worked with with some of the kids. They're the most corrupt organisation. They put no money into grassroots, and that's why Ireland isn't a problem. So now, why Ireland isn't up there with the likes of the Welsh and the Northern Ireland teams and the Scottish teams even. Imagine Northern Ireland are now usurped us purely because the FAI don't really have a fucking clue or want to put a program in place. So anyway, Niall.
I just think the conversation was more about looking at the seeding system and whether teams should be seeded in such a way to be given a kind of an equal opportunity in terms of trying to
those.
Yeah, go ahead.
Those Latvian girls and those Georgian girls shouldn't be in the same stadium as the Irish and English girls.
No,
shouldn't even in the same stadium, and that's your point. You know, like that. Those groups are horrific to put them through that. Now, in saying that, I did hear that nobody had beaten them by more than 3 until Ireland beat them by 11. So they weren't necessarily the whipping boys at that stage, albeit they were bottom of the group. They hadn't conceded any more than 3. But looking at the defending, Jesus, I'm finding that hard to believe of them, honestly.
Yeah, they must have played. They must have played the fucking Bobcats in the alley that week.
It was hard. It was a tough watch. Yeah, it really was.
Absolutely. Well, as always, man, an absolute pleasure getting your thoughts on all these topics. I do have a way of picking them at times. As always, head over to YouTube, Dynamo Podcast Network, Spotify for audio versions of the show. This has been your Monday mashup. Cheers, boys.